Hello, Jalia Pettis here, and it is time for us to jump into week 4. And week 4 is about skin tone and undertone. So let's jump right into it, okay? We're not gonna delay. We're gonna jump right into it because I even have a demo that I want to show you all. So with that being said, sometimes it can be a little tricky to understand what it means to find your skin's tone or undertone. So basically, this is probably the best way that I can think of to explain it. If you think about hot and cold and what colors you feel like represent hot and cold, that's the best way I can think to describe skin's undertones. Okay, I know you probably like hot and cold. What in the world is she talking about? All right, so when we think of cool undertones, when you think of the term cool or cold, what's the color that pops into your mind? Is it blue? Yeah, right, because that's been embedded in our head that like blue represents like frost and ice, right? So when you're thinking about cool undertones as it relates to skin, that's the best way to describe it, is tones that represent a blueness or a pinkness or a ruddiness. And I know some of you are like, ruddy, what is that? It's like a combination between a pink and a blue. Now, when we think about hot, we think about the color red, right? Think about a thermostat. That normally represents red, just like blue represents cold. So when we think about warm tones, those normally represent our reds and our goldens, so to speak. Let me open up my laptop. Of course, y'all know I'm a note taker. This is week 4. I keep some notes next to me, okay? So your warm tones are going to be more along those red sides, along those golden peachy sides, okay? And then when we talk neutral is just that. It's right in the middle. So the best way to describe a neutral would be a yellow green or a green yellow. And you're like, neutral, what does that look like? It basically looks like olive. So most people are olive undertoned. And a lot of the reasoning behind that is because we're in 2025, and one thing to take into consideration is there are a wide variety of people from different ethnic backgrounds. And that is something that plays into the makeup and the tone of the skin. And I know you like, wait a minute, Jalia, where are you going with this? Okay, so let me go back a little bit. I'm gonna dig my esthetician hat out and kind of describe it in this way. There's something that is called a Fitzpatrick scale. And the way that the Fitzpatrick scale is set up is it is based on skin types and how those skin types respond to extrinsic factors like the sun, okay? So when you think about someone that has very cool undertones to their skin, that is very porcelain, they were historically individuals that came from areas that did not have a lot of sun. So think about like Antarctica and Iceland. Those individuals historically had porcelain skin, really, really light eyes, like blues and tones of that nature, and really, really light hair, like icy blondes. And the reason is because they were not exposed to the sun as much. Then we have all of those individuals in the middle, and then we get to the end of the Fitzpatrick scale, or the top of the Fitzpatrick scale, where individuals have more melanin in their skin, which means that they can handle the sun, which also means that their skin tone is a lot darker because they are exposed to the sun, okay? So because they're exposed to the sun, their skin is darker, their eyes are darker, their hair is darker, because the sun is literally just kind of baking into them. Another reason that the Fitzpatrick scale came into play was to kind of allow people to understand how your skin responded to the sun and how you may or may not be exposed to different forms of skin cancer. Now, along the way, as I mentioned, we're in 2025, that has changed quite a bit. And the reason that's changed quite a bit is because we have a lot of individuals that are of mixed race. So when you look at somebody, you can't necessarily 100% tell exactly what their ethnic makeup is. And that is where that olive tone comes into play, because there are a lot of mixed races within different tones. Now, that does not mean that you can't have someone with really dark melanated skin be a cool tone. And I know you're like, wait a minute, Jalia, you just said porcelain was cool. Yes, but I'm going to jump into this even further. Okay, so let me give you a further example. If you can wear silvers, primarily silvers, and accessories, that lets you know that you're on the cooler side. If you're somebody that golds look better on you, that lets you know that you're on the warm side. If you're somebody that can wear silver and gold, that lets you know that you're in the neutral side. Y'all following me? Okay, so I'm going to jump into it a little bit deeper. I'm going to pick up a few products here. Okay, so I'm going to open up a couple of these palettes so you can get a general idea here. So we have some different tones in this particular palette. Now, this palette is a corrector palette. This is by Cinema Secrets. It's one of my professional palettes. And these tones down here are cooler. This is warmer. This is more neutral. We're seeing pinks. We're seeing goldens. We're seeing yellow greens. Making sense? I'm going to show you a different one. Okay. Now I have this one upside down. Okay, so now we have warm, cool, neutrals. And look at the varying of the neutrals. Okay, this actually to me reads more gray, which is honestly not a color that I would put on anybody, but you might need it because you never know what might be happening with somebody's undertone of their skin. Okay, I'm going to show you another. Oops. This one is by, you can tell I use this one quite a bit. This one is by Makeup Forever, and this one actually has quite a few different tones in it. So we have cool, warm, cool. I know you're like, wait a minute. This is a darker tone. It sure is. It's more of that ruddiness, that mix of those two that I had mentioned to you before. Whereas you know this one off the top is warm, okay? This one is warm, neutral, cool, neutral. These two are correctors, okay? So this is more of a green, which is going to correct any redness in the skin. And this one is more of a tangerine tone, which is going to correct any blues or purples in the skin, okay? I know you like blues or purples in the skin. Yes, this is covering up red, and which is most of the time like rosaceas or acnes, and this is covering up dark spots. Now, you're going to determine the individual that you're putting this on. If the person is really, really light in skin tone, you're not going to put this on them. You're going to have to lighten this up. If the person is really, really dark in skin tone, you're not going to put this on them. You're going to have to make this a little bit more green yellow versus pale because you don't want it to look chalky. Yes, I know it sounds confusing, but I promise you it's going to make sense in a moment. Here's another palette just to kind of give you another idea. Okay, so these two are warmer, neutral. These are blushes, cool, cool, neutral. Okay, all right. So when you're buying your products, your actual products for yourself, another way that you can kind of help your mind think about, okay, where do I fall in this, is looking at the bottom of the actual product. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Okay, this says Cool Almond. Okay, so cool is in the description, so we know that this is for somebody that has a cool undertone. Okay, this says N100, so N stands for neutral, so we know this is for somebody that has more of a neutral undertone. Oops. This one says Golden Honey, so we know this one is more for somebody that has a warm skin tone. Does that make sense? So I'm going to put this into action on skin so that you can see exactly what I mean. Now, for someone like me, I am an olive, but I read more yellow green than green yellow. And I read more yellow green now because of the redness that I have in my skin due to the reaction that I had told y'all about. So I have to do a little bit more color correcting before I just put concealer on and foundation on. Okay, so I'm going to bring my model in and I'm going to show you how to do a color match and a swatch for yourself. All right, y'all ready? Let's take a pause real quick and I'm going to bring her right in. All right, so this is my model Jasmine, and I'm going to show you how to match your foundation. So I have 3 swatches here, okay? And I have a little bit of a spoolie, and what I'm going to do, so tread that way for me, is test it along the jawline here. So we want to really swipe from here to here, okay? That's how you want to test it. So I'm going to go in with this one first, which I know is too light, okay? But this is the cool, okay? Now I'm gonna go in with this one. Okay, and that one is reading a little bit warmer on her. Now I'm gonna go in with this one. Okay, so of the 3, I can use them in different ways. So I feel like this first one is definitely too light. This one is too warm, and this one is a tiny bit too dark. However, I can mix these 3 to get the perfect match that I need for her. So I know you're probably like, Jalia, what are you saying? You didn't match her. No, I didn't match her, but what I can do is get 1 cool, 1 warm, 1 neutral, and I can determine what's going to work for the particular skin tone that I'm working on. Now, as this is starting to dry down, this is showing me a little bit more of what I can do, okay? Now, of course, as you're buying products, you want to get as close to the actual color match of the skin as possible. So I am going to put 1 more color on my palette just for the sake of this demo. And this one is a little warmer. Okay. So I feel like I can mix these 2 or this one and this one and get what I need. So whenever I am buying foundation for myself or I'm suggesting that it be done for somebody else, I always say get at least 2 products, 1 a little bit lighter and 1 a little bit darker so that you can mix them. And then also too, when you go into the varying seasons, you want to make sure that you're moving towards a shade that's a little bit warmer, okay? So I'm going to take that off of her face really quick. And I'm just going to use a toner on a cotton round to take that off. Face the camera for me. Now, we have a couple of spots on Jasmine that she has some hyperpigmentation and also some spots from a breakout recently. So we have a couple of spots that are healing. We have a couple of spots that have started healing. And then we have a few spots that are from an active breakout. So that means we need to make sure that we color correct those areas. So we want to color correct these areas here. Look up for me. And then also underneath the eye. So when I showed you that previous palette that had this tones in it, these here, that's what those correctors are for, okay? That's what those correctors are for. They're going to help you in making sure that those areas are concealed, okay? So for the purpose of today, I'm not going to use a ton of those items just because I don't want to confuse you. However, I am going to show you how you can use concealer and foundation to really just paint the canvas that you need. So I have 4 different colors on my palette, and I'm going to start with that lighter one that we swatched first. And I'm just going to go in it with my brush. Look up for me. And I'm just going to pat just ever so lightly in those areas that I want to cover up, okay? Those areas that we know we need to kind of just hide a little bit. So try that way. Okay, straight ahead. All right, so I've just kind of pat those on, and I'm just using a flat brush, okay? Now you use the tools that are gonna work for you. I'm going to transition to a more fluffier brush because I really want to be able to blend this the way that makes sense for me. So what I'm going to do is, with my palette, I'm going to take that first one, or excuse me, that last product that I applied, and I'm gonna mix it with that one, and I'm gonna use that all over her face. So I'm gonna mix that with that one. And I'm literally just mixing it out onto my palette. Some people might use the back of their hand, but of course, as being a makeup artist, I'm never going to do something that is going to cause some form of contaminant on my client, okay? That's just not what we're getting ready to do. So I'm just laying my product down with that, and then I'm gonna use my fluffier brush to buff it out. And I'm using what's called a stippling motion. So I'm basically pressing the product into the skin this way versus this way. And by doing this, it's automatically, close your eyes for me, it's automatically diffusing the lines because I'm using a fluffier brush. Forward facing, please. That way. Forward facing. Tight your lip. And I'm just using that stippling motion all over her face. Really, really effortless coverage. We could keep building if we want a fuller coverage, but it was really about just finding the products that we needed for her particular skin tone. Now, Jasmine is olive skin tone, but she reads more green yellow versus yellow green. So she can wear golds, she can wear silvers, she can do either, and they complement her fine. Now with the product that's left on my brush, tilt your head up for me, I am going to go down along the jawline and work that in because we do not want to ever see any start or stop to the foundation, okay? Never ever, okay? Look straight ahead for me, open your eyes. So for those marks up underneath her eyes that aren't quite blended, I'll get a sponge, look up for me, And I'll just press those ever so slightly with a kind of curve to it. And I'm holding my sponge tight. That gives me a lot more control, especially around the eye. If you have sensitive eyes like me, it only takes one little movement to mess things up and waterworks begin. Okay? And now we have full face coverage with her skin tone matching the way that it needs to. All right, so that wraps up week 4, skin tone and undertone and kind of really understanding foundation match. I think a lot of times what happens when we are purchasing products for our skin, we overcomplicate it just a little bit. So I hope understanding warm, cool, and neutral will help you when you go out and purchase some products. So let's get to the homework. So I want you to showcase to me what your undertone is and what tones you feel like flatter that particular undertone, okay? And remember, I gave you a tip as to what that is already when it comes to the accessories. So think about those complementing colors based on your undertones, all right? I hope this was helpful for you, and I can't wait to join you more next week. Take care. Bye-bye.